Well, thank you very much, Dresden, for this ice-breaking activity. I'm going to introduce now our very first speaker. He's going to be talking about sustainable urban planning. Carlos Moreno is a French-Colombian urbanist. He's the creator of the 15-minute city concept, which has been adopted in cities such as Paris. He's a consultant for international organizations. He's been the receiver of awards from UN Habitat, among many others. He's going to talk to us about reimagining Santa Cruz towards a new city narrative. Carlos, please take the floor. We are delighted to have you with us today.
Bueno, muy buenos días a todas y a todos y gracias por este.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this nice energy flow we have just had. Special thanks to Santa Cruz Sostenible, to Diego, for all the effort he has invested into this conference. And it's a real pleasure to be here with you in Santa Cruz. It's a real honor for me as well to be able to kick off this section about sustainable urban planning and talking about the future of Santa Cruz. The title of this first keynote speech is Reimagining Santa Cruz towards a new urban narrative. While talking to Diego, he shared with me that he had an interest in sharing the works I have with the Pantheon de Sorbonne in Paris. Where we have been able to find some drivers for change, for transformation, where sustainability has been that driver, and how we could use that project as a source of inspiration for Santa Cruz. There are many different international projects which I've been able to carry out, where I've been able to be involved. Also with Ana Hidalgo, we have shared some of this projects, and she has been carrying out some of these deeply transformative processes for the past 12 years. So I will be taking you on a world trip. We will be taking a look around the world and applying that to Santa Cruz. We have noticed that there is an urgent need to move away from these iconic architectural structures, like, for example, this internationally well-known work by Calatrava, which is a unique icon. We have to move towards a different urban planning strategy where we are revitalizing the territories. An urban transformation strategy for the revitalization of Santa Cruz that makes a city more human, that improves the quality of life of the local people. With this project, where we have the space of 530,000 square meters, this is a unique opportunity. We could use a strategic vision and also have this political commitment towards the common good, where Santa Cruz would become one single territory. Well, firstly, I would like to start this journey around the world by sharing a meeting we recently had in November in Cairo, Egypt, within the 12th session of the Urban World Forum. The key topic was everything starts at home, local actions for cities and sustainable communities. The results was on the 8th of November of 2024, we published the final declaration, a call to action, and I want to highlight point number 5. situate proximity and circularity at the core of urban development, and that is absolutely necessary. That's the first source of inspiration for Santa Cruz, to move towards proximity and circularity as cornerstones in order to develop welfare. In Cali, Colombia, COP16 happened. We will be celebrating in Belém, Brazil, the next COP30. So in this COP about biodiversity, we talk about One Health. What does this tell us? Well, societies, communities, plants, animals, people, environment, it's all connected. And health needs to be looked at in a systemic way. Cities, territories, health need to be at the heart of urban policies. So I'm linking proximity and circularity to urban health, territorial health, and as well linking it to well-being. I've received a number of documents. Diego facilitated those to me quite kindly, thank you. And I looked at the statistics, at the keywords I could find throughout those documents, and it was interesting to notice that we had this series of keywords regarding Santa Cruz: fragmentation, nature, inequalities, scales, refinery, rebalancement, the opportunities, integration, citizenship, mechanisms, as well as planning. Well, I must say, I'm not an architect, I'm not an urbanist, although I work in this field. However, my specialization is computer science, but I've been working with urban architecture for many years now. Still, it allows me to have quite a particular perspective when looking into architecture and urbanism. While looking at key elements we can use on this transformation. I've also had the honor, and I have the honor of having been invited into a group workshop, a thematic workshop specialized here in Santa Cruz on this very topics. I will be not diving into the topics you can see on screen. However, I've written down a document, a 40-page document for Diego and for the Island Council of Santa Cruz that I will be sharing tomorrow. However, as an introduction, it is key to have a dialogue, to have this holistic development at a local level, to reach these key elements that are, on one hand, the analysis of the territories, and on the other hand, to move towards 21st century planning, where we are not only focusing on circularity and proximity, which we can also call sustainable proximity, focused on health and well-being, but we also need to include a new geographic economy. Here you can see how I've summed it up, calling it a new geographical economy of sustainable proximity, with territorialization of access to services, a network of polycentric centralities, mobility as a service. And we're seeing that we can find more cars than people nowadays. We can also see this local economy and this neighborhood animation points. Now, if I would have to summarize in 5 items what I will be sharing with you tomorrow, that would be it. Now, what I've been taking notes of while revisiting all that literature is that we have to fight against fragmentation, inequalities, urban mobility, private vehicles, a low use of the soil, and also social cohesion, key within these territories, and it is right now at risk due to the massification of tourism. We can see it in the market and the house market. there are less and less houses available for local people. We see those spaces where we only have temporary residents, people who come and stay for a few days and then leave, so they're not really living there. Then we can also find these natural spaces. However, the density, the population density here is very high, and there is a problem, a housing problem, which is also shared by many of the current world capitals. Now, another source of inspiration for urban transformation is this. We have to really focus on proximity, and it will be under that lens that we'll be able to understand the worldwide success of this concept we developed in Paris, but then we're able to share with the rest of the world. We call it the city in 15 minutes, but it's also being called a city of X minutes, and this territory of happy proximity. We have two sources of inspiration: the Nobel Prize, Mohamed Yunus, and we have used for that the 000 word, net CO2, poverty and exclusion. He's a Nobel Prize winner, as I was saying. We have also been working with the Regional Science Association, and Paul received his Nobel Prize in 2008 thanks to his new geographic economy, nearshoring. Thanks to him, we are talking about this new geographic economy. We fight climate change not only by reducing CO2 levels and protecting biodiversity. We're not only revitalizing all neighborhoods by getting back public spaces, but we are also trying to regenerate economy with a 21st century model, one that is separated from that 20th century model that led to inequalities and many of the challenges all people have to face today. Though we called it proximity in the new economic geography. Now, together with Paul and Karina Corti, as well as Peter Nischkamp, we published an article, a paper, on old wisdom and the new economic geography, and how we looked at the cities of the past when there was some sort of uncertainty. There were a lot of tensions. We can see it with taxes, we can see it with the tariffs that Trump is imposing. There is a loss of economic value creation. So we can see there are many tensions everywhere, and at that moment, the safest bet is cities. So we have to recompose the social area where we can work towards the future, where resilience does not only imply resisting climate change, but more than that. Right now, we are also resisting the economic crisis, social crisis. We're resisting the impacts on our health due to different waves of pandemic. We're also resisting the impact of that overuse of individual cars, the lack of public transport that leads to traffic jams. And we're also resisting to all these moments where we have no access at all to public transport due to heat waves, due to floods. So in November, at the World Urban Forum in Cairo, I shared a new groundbreaking concept, proxilience. Proxilience means that nowadays our best tool is proximity. It's a part of urban planning since cities started existing in all Mesopotamia. It's not only about we're not only talking about distance when mentioning proximity, it's also about the interaction between different elements, the cognitive interaction, the emotional intelligence, the way we can see other people, we can greet them, we can hug them. Go and make or groceries, buy groceries at a local store. We can see that more than half of people's visits to the doctor's office is related to anxiety cases. With the different effects on their health. So resilience within the proximity, that is the meaning of proxilience. Maybe in Valencia, we saw how people weren't able to get their trains because there was a flood. In Greece, we also saw similar problems. In Bogota nowadays, over 9 million people had no access to water. Nowadays, here in Santa Cruz, we are facing the same challenge. How can we create a territory and urban narrative that can generate our convergence, an agreement where we all are a part of this transformation? The biggest challenge is to create this feeling of being a part of something. And the thing is that this collective feeling is missing from our cities. We are living in urban spaces where maybe we have a high level of density, but people still feel lonely. They don't know each other. They don't know their neighbors, even within the same buildings. They don't have time to say good morning. They're waking up early. They're coming back late. They have not a chance to even connect to their own families. We can see how many people are getting divorced, even more so for women with children. That will immediately lead to economic challenges and financial challenges. So we want to have a new narrative for cities and territories, to have this reinforced identity for one community. We can see these 6 elements we want to highlight as key points to have this, as it was saying, reinforced identity. As scientists, we talk about topophilia, to love a place, to love our streets, our neighborhoods, or area, or city. Within the 12th World Urban Forum, I also talked about this proximity, as I was saying before. That's one of the main challenges when we are oversaturated. We also need to find a new geographic economy, territorial centralities. This new geographical economy needs to be widespread and not only focused in the business districts. We also need balanced services, healthcare services, educational services, sports, and of course, well-being and quality of life. We need to not only care, but also go beyond that. When there is no well-being, there is no quality of life. Well-being, One Health, as COP16 stated, is absolutely needed. This led to the success of Paris. The whole world looked at Paris last year during the Olympic Games. Some were there in person, others followed the Olympic Games online or via TV. However, we can see that the success is not as much related with how it happened, but rather with how the city was organized by Ana Hidalgo. The Paris Olympic Games were designed to be enjoyed by everyone. they were spread all around the city, and this tactical urban planning became patent thanks to that. We could see it with the Montmartre, with the different parts where the city transformed in order to host the games. 97% of the infrastructure used during those games were already present within the city. Only 3% of those were new buildings. They were also able to use the Seine River in order to kick off the games. Never before had someone been able to use it in that way, and that reinforced that identity. In 2020, she shared what she had been able to achieve. But in 2019, we talked about this project, the 15-minute city of Paris. That became the backbone of all urban planning policies. And the key to Paris' success is not only related to having over 20,000 kilometers of bicycle roads. It's not only the fact that they can really profit from those spaces adjacent to the sea, not only relating to all the schools they have to offer many streets where no cars can drive through, but only people get to enjoy to walk. No, the key to its success was this strategic plan that allowed the city to transform on an ecological level, which leads to well-being, more people going for a stroll, more people using their bicycles. But at the same time, they were able to transform this social interaction model. The 23rd of March, they asked the citizens if they wanted to have more 500 new green roads. By this, we do not mean to interrupt the use of vehicles of these roads all over the cities, no. But we will be changing the way in which cars go through the cities. What we're trying to achieve is that cars only use these roads for when they really need it, that they don't spend 97% of their time glued to a piece of the road. We are proud because we can find a bakery by walking around, and we will find one every 4 minutes. But furthermore, last year we shared a website where we looked at each neighborhood, 17 neighborhoods in total. You can see it on screen, where each citizen can find explanation of where fundamental services can be found around them based on the concepts of circularity and proximity. We're very proud of this website because we can just share all where we are, and then we will be able to find what I can find around me, not only by going there on foot, but also by bike. And that's how Paris decided to seize the opportunity that proximity presents. That's how they became this strategic urban space. This transformation of Paris, its success is due to that. In 2024, we had worked for 3 months already on this project. The city mayor majority voted in favor of this bioclimatic urban plan. This plan had only had one predecessor from the year 2000, and it would be kept for 10 or 15 years. That plan would work on boosting affordable housing everywhere, low carbon neighborhoods, environmental health, urban identity, hyper proximity, and resilient city. They voted in favor of this, and now it's become a part of the legal framework. Up to 35% of the city needs to fulfill of these criteria, not only the most wealthy neighborhoods. Right now we're seeing this gentrification, where lower income neighborhoods have up to 42.2% of the social housing. But we need to change this, and that's the way in which we want to reduce or guarantee affordable housing. Here you can see La Rue de Rivoli in the past and in the present. Here we can see even more transformation. Here we can see 30 years in the past, Eiffel Tower, and here you can see it after the Olympic Games. This is the Place de la Concorde, which has been historically linked to car roads, but after the Olympic Games, it's for people to walk around, and it was voted in favor by all political parties. That is the new form of the Place de la Concorde. This is how we have been able to transform schools. Ana Hidalgo mentioned that with this 50-minute project, we would have schools as the new capital of the cities. We would open up the spaces of school grounds so that it could become a public space. And we would also transform, that was the second step, the roads adjacent to those schools. This is what transformation implies. We have also been able to create a trade agency where people could get affordable stores to maybe start a bakery, a butcher shop, all sorts of local commerce projects. And those blue dots you can see on the map, those are the stores we can find around the city. And that's what we're aiming for, local commerce that is affordable from a human scale, and it is with hyper proximity. So this is the map of Paris. This is the gentrification. You can see that people are being secluded in some neighborhoods. They are separated. However, this is quite developed. We can find 4.2%, 40% in the east of with social housing. We can see those numbers. Social housing has been focused in some particular neighborhoods with high density of population. Whereas in other areas with low density, we have put the shops, the stores, and that's what we're fighting against. We want for buildings to be alive, to be having this mixed usage. Maybe we can find these new buildings. That's what we are aiming for, where we find these affordable housing spaces as well as local commerce. Le Pavillon de l'Arcelan has published recently a book and with different projects, and I chose from the three main projects the neighborhoods that we've been able to create, focusing on urban regeneration. One of them is this one you can see on screen. A former railway in the heart of Paris. It was a technical space for the different trains. However, we have reconverted that into this eco-district. In any constructive business model, we might have had many more buildings in order to be able to sell those off or rent them at high prices. However, we prioritized that a big part of this space had to be the Martin Luther King Park. And surrounding that park, we have high-quality buildings, and 50% of the habitat that was created there is social 20% is affordable housing and 30% is up for sale for more wealthy people. If you ever come to Paris, I will be glad to personally show you the space that has not only been awarded, but it's also one of many other neighborhoods that have been created around Paris. This can be found in the northwest of Paris, where more affluent citizens live. People thought that this park would lead to all sorts of criminal behavior. However, it couldn't be farther from the truth. We can see that it's one of the spaces with a lower criminal activity level. And of course, the city mayor is a socialist, and people always tell me, well, you're also a socialist, that's why you like her. Ile-de-France, which is the surrounding area of Paris. As you know, during the last election, Ana Hidalgo from the left had to fight, so to say, the different right-wing parties. And within her campaign, she wanted to share this 20-minute proximity project. She wanted to share that project. However, they told her that it would look like she was just copying what Ana Hidalgo had said. But she responded that she was copying what Carlos had shared. And that's how this came to be. This region of 20 minutes, where we have 32 centralities, 144 new polarities, which will make facilities related to education, health, and it will allow us to transform the whole territory until 2040. Well, yes, you might say, this is Paris. You have millions and millions of inhabitants. You're talking about circularity, you're talking of proximity. I live in a town of 5,000 people. Well, here you have the mayor, member, Arkadiusz Stark, that has also set the perfect example of how to achieve this 15-minute model within smaller towns. They have also been awarded with many different recognitions. It has become an icon that has shown how you can transform even smaller towns. This is a small town of 15,000 inhabitants, in fact, and that's how it has been transformed. And this can be found everywhere around the globe. Maybe it's not called 15-minute cities, but 10-minute cities, like in Utrecht, Cecil's town. You can also see it in Ottawa. In Argentina, we talk about the holistic city, and it has many different names. This is a vision with methodology that has been developed at a global scale with different implementations. Our friends from Munich have summarized with these 8 elements what the heart of a project looks like. So first of all, proximity to essential services, organic density, mixed uses, quality public spaces, efficient public transport, low carbon active mobility, social inclusivity, and technological ubiquity to be able to access more services. Social circularity introduces something crucial, which is this mixed usage. We have 6 key elements. How do I work? Where do I live? Where do I get my groceries? How do I access to healthcare? How do I access to education? And how do I take a break? There's a polycentric dissemination. It's not only about housing, it's also about living somewhere. That's the main difference. More often than not, Henri Lefebvre focused on housing people, but now we want to focus on the right to live in their cities, to live their cities. I will be publishing a book in Spanish soon, the power of proximity, cities to live, not to just stay, but to really live there with this low carbon emissions model and polycentric methodology. That's what we have worked for. To have this matrix with the different indicators, we have focused on 3: well-being, sociability, and this as well as environmental impact. Within this mix, we can find the rainbow of high quality of social life to mix working with living, enjoying, learning, caring, supplying. We call that a rainbow that needs to be found everywhere. Philosopher Pascal wrote in the 16th century about his thoughts on God, and he described him as a sphere that could be found everywhere. Its circumference could be found everywhere, but its core was nowhere to be found. So the city is like a sphere, which circumference could be everywhere, and its core or its center should be nowhere. We want to imply a citizen's proximity. It doesn't look the same for a young person as it does for an elderly couple or a married person that has to work. So we need to understand how people understand proximity and how they face it. It's not only about being here close to Diego. We have found 3 different waves of proximity. We can see this closer proximity, intermediate proximity, and the centralities. These are 3 rings of proximity that allow us to modernize the different services we have access to. Maybe we can get there or by foot, on bike, or by car. And then we grab and mix it with some scientific concepts, with maths. We also work with the citizens through participatory projects and workshops. We work with quantitative and qualitative analytical approaches. We use math, we use data, we use artificial intelligence. We also use new algorithms to make new measurements of the urban spaces, and we're also trying to visualize everything, the public spaces, how spaces are being used, who lives there. How can we tackle this? And with these proximity workshops, we can ask people, we can ask around about their opinions, about what they think, then analyze these profiles and compare them to geospatial information, the profile we think that live there, because we have been surveying them, we've been working with them. Something that really excited me was South Korea. I saw the transformation. Imagine a space where urban planning transformation has completely changed the space. Here you can see this QR code. People have an app and a card. And with that pill, that QR pill you can find all around the city, allows me to enter a proximity space. Here you can see the 15 minutes. I can use an app. I will be able to identify that QR code, and I will be then earning points that will be transformed to money that I will be able to reuse in all these spaces with this QR code. These are proximity spaces that are a part of the new economic model of the city. That's the app you can use in order to earn points. And here you can see the lady who was explaining it to me, and she told me every day I move around for 1 hour at least to earn points while going around these QR points. And when I get off work, I can then buy my groceries with the points I've earned. And if you walk around, you get a bonus with this card. And that's how you can find an interesting implementation of these principles. You might tell me, well, okay, that's very interesting, but that's Asia, that's Europe. But here we can see in Latin America too the utopic projects that are being successfully implemented. You can see the example of Iztapalapa, how they were able to reuse the city mayor was able to use spaces or tools that had no use anymore, like an old boat, an airplane. They were able to create these utopic spaces. You can see schools, public spaces, pools, a high number of new centralities that have reduced the violence levels by 42%. She was also able to launch over 100 utopia projects that have been carried out during the past 15 years. Now we are here in Tenerife. This is a wonderful space to transform 530,000 square meters of a currently polluted area that is at the core of current European policies. I'm very proud that in Cannes, a few weeks ago, we shared the Lodge project, and it got 2 awards, one for urban regeneration and then the special jury award. This smaller scale project from Santa Cruz de Tenerife is also an extraordinary project which could work. We applied that same concept to that other city, and it became a proximity and circularity city. Well, I have only 1 minute left, so let's reach the ending of my presentation. Santa Cruz Verde 2030 is in brownfield project to be generated in an exemplary way. We have this strategic industrial land under conversion, this large area, potential to create new, green, livable, and productive centrality, the articulation with sustainable mobility, affordable housing, and energy transition, to have this link, as I was saying, with the territory. We are in an island, we are living by a port, we are living by the shoreline. And this shoreline needs to be present, not only as a place we visit with a towel and some sunscreen to look at the sunset. No, it needs to be livable. And these 573,000 square meters needs to be reconverted in a livable city. We're not renovating CEPSA. We are carrying out a global project in which shoreline, the port, and the whole island sets an example for this transformation. I will be sharing this tomorrow to different teams, this functional proximity, this equitative accessibility to fight back repression, also this green infrastructure, this proximity economy, this accessible housing, social cohesion and care, as well as climate resilience, as well one of Europe's most endangered spaces. And as I was saying, we're not only talking about the transformation of CEPSA, we are focusing on proximity, circularity. We want to set an example at a city level that it's viable, it's feasible, it's sustainable, and it's democratic. This is the document I've prepared. I've already sent it to Diego, and tomorrow I will have the honor, the pleasure to share it with you. Apologies, I've already run out of time, but I really needed to share it with you. Thank you so much.
Fuerte el aplauso porque ha valido la pena el minuto, los 2 minutos.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos, for sticking to the time. You did go a couple of minutes over, but it was very, very interesting to hear about Paris, which is, of course, the most visited city in the world. Spain follows Paris and then the US. Interesting, 3% circulation, 97% of time stuck, like